Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC in 2023. Lovely nice ring to it there with the rhyming and everything. This is the pre-season test, the final pre-season test of the year, and we're at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez with the cars and drivers out on track testing their brand new 2023 GPVWC machines, which I'm sure that we will talk about plenty as the test goes on. It's been a long time since we rocked and rolled, and today we are doing both of those in equal measures with, like I said, plenty of drivers and teams out on track, giving it the beans and seeing how their cars handle just as the actual Formula One testing comes to start. We are finishing up with ours. I'm joined in the commentary box today by Ryan Elliott, team boss of the Powered by RSR team. Ryan, how are you feeling about this this season and your team's chances, let's say, going into this year?
Well, first off, good to be back. Going to be here full time this year. Unfortunately, can't make round one, but I'll be here full time alongside yourself, Caitlin. And what a place to finish off testing. Mexico's a great track, especially in Superleague cars. If anyone's ever driven it. I see somebody going for a spin there. Really high commitment in the middle sector, putting the downforce to test, and it's a great place to try our newer cars for this season. As for my team, feeling confident. We ended last year in a really big high. You know, we had some pole positions, podiums. I really have faith that we can continue this into 2023 and yeah, roll on from there. Hopefully get some wins this year.
The Nocturne car I see is testing its brand new low downforce package with the front wing completely removed. Mike Quint there just getting some testing to see just how serious the track limits are, how much he can get away with there. I see. As he recovers to the pit lane. Not too many cars out there right now, but that's okay. It's been a long test. We're only joining in for the final few hours of it. But yes, the drivers, a lot of them were on earlier on and then kind of dipped out for various reasons. And we currently have 14 drivers on the server now, with Tom Stevens, the fastest of the lot in the THR car. Quite a long way ahead as well. THR effectively having two teams here this season, because they work very closely with the Nocturne team run by Toby Davis, which is also out there on track. This is Jan Granquist and the brand new Super Venturi car, which he certainly won't be misplacing anytime soon. Very bright fluorescent yellow colour, and that is going to look awesome under the lights at Singapore later on this season. It'll be good to see all of the various liveries and things, so we can get used to what the cars are going to look like this season. I'm sure that we will see all of them in due time, but yes, this is the Super Venturi car, currently being driven by Jan Granquist, who has been very impressive over the last few years, coming up through the ranks just as any new Super League driver should. Ryan, there have been a few changes coming into to this season, both on the broadcast end and the racing end. Now, you work rather closely with the Powered by RSR team, of course, because you run that particular team. What have your drivers been telling you about this new car, and how is it different from the previous 2021 base car?
It's quite a tricky one, really. As I'm not sure if many of the viewers are aware about sort of the updates that have been happening with the car. They've been quite frequent at the moment. So there's not many teams have really had a chance to get to grips with the car yet. We're still, testing tyre models and stuff like that. Setups are constantly changing, so I'm sure every team up and down the grid's having this issue as well. We've not had a chance to sort of, put a proper setup together yet. We're all still testing new things. We've had to start our development process already. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and we're only a couple of weeks away now from round one. It's getting tight, but it's only going to make it more and more exciting. That's for sure.
Indeed. Now, there's a sight you won't get to see that much. Those are 3 Epic Racing Team cars all in a row. Of course, 3 cars from the same team, which you will not see in the actual races. David Yunt, Hygo Poom, and Jeffrey Fournier all out there setting laps right now. The main drivers are actually going to be Jeffrey Fournier and Fabio Sixter, according to the website. Poom and Yunt are both being touted as reserve and emergency drivers, so you could see them over the course of the year, and I'm sure we will at some point in some capacity. But the first race, at least, is scheduled to be competed or contested by Fabio Sixter and Jeffrey Fournier. Bit of slipstreaming going on down there into turn 1, one of the THR cars coming through from behind as well. And a new driver's just joined the server too, Pascal Pollens. Good to see Pascal here. Of course, Pascal won the race in Mexico City last year, so his lap times might well be a bit of a benchmark for the competition. Talking of lap times, it would be fun to see actually how the laps compare to last year. I imagine the car is probably not as fast as the previous one was, but that is okay, because sometimes the actual speed of the cars is not particularly representative, and doesn't necessarily lead to particularly strong racing. And you can have just as good a race with some slower cars that run 2 or 3 seconds off the pace, than you can with the fastest cars ever seen.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention as well that there's going to be some sandbagging going on today.
Oh yeah,
just
sure.
Like real life. These guys aren't. Look at the timing tower now, and the majority of them are over 3 seconds off the pace. That's not representative. The whole purpose of this session, for the viewers that aren't aware, is to just bank laps, get points. not crash, not go through sets of tyres. Obviously that costs money and comes out of your budget, so a lot of these guys are just turning up and just cruising around, you know, putting it in cruise control and just getting the, I believe today's 30 laps that they're required to do, 30 timed laps, so yeah, it's like real life, you know. Like last year everyone thought Merc was sandbagging, and they typically do. It's going to be the same here, so it will be interesting to see though how far off the fastest person is compared to last year's car. There's usually one or two guys who just go for a big lap. Don't really know why, but they still do it every year.
Well, I'm surprised actually by how close the lap times are to last year's times. Tom Stevens, currently at the top of the times, has a 1:15.644, and the pole time by last year, which was set by Stefan Rohr, was a 1:13.470. So there's only, I mean, they're only 2.3 seconds off. And considering this is testing and that was qualifying, that's really not that far. You know, we could be seeing them. They're still probably not going to be as fast as last year, but we could be seeing them, you know, even closer than that later on this season, especially since I believe we're racing at this circuit later on this year as well. We're actually not, so that's why we're testing here, because this isn't a circuit that we're racing at. But yeah, like I said, I'm surprised by how quick these cars are already going. But it is worth noting, Tom is currently 1.3 seconds faster than anyone else on the server, so clearly he's gone for a bit of a Hail Mary sort of lap and put himself right at the top of the times there.
Yeah, he was on soft tyres, I think I saw from the time in Tower. So who knows what his strategy was for this session.
And here is Tom in that THR car that we've been seeing at the back of the shot a few times. Liveried similarly to the THR cars that we saw in in FS1 last season. It's a team that's been climbing through the ranks as well, and a very professional organisation. They work very closely with their testers, their team boss, Toby Davis. They make liveries, they share, and of course they're very close with Nocturne as well, as they slipstream past an unliveried car there. Now, let's talk through a few of the headlines coming up to this season. Like I said, there have been a few changes since last year. Notably, the reigning champions have not returned to defend their crown, and that was confirmed rather late, unfortunately. The Evolution Motorsports team have left, so we will not have Yannick Bock or Leon Bock on the grid for this season, nor will we have the team's champion from last year. And without meaning to be a bit judgy or whatever, I feel like they let down the league a bit by pulling out so late. It would have been a lot better if they'd announced it before the teams had been announced for the year and all of that. But anyway, whatever the case, they've decided that they do not want to take part in GPWC in 2023, so that leaves the door wide open for new drivers to come through and challenge for the big results.
Yeah, it's I wasn't personally too pleased. I'm sure most people weren't, obviously, but I really made a point of it being a real letdown. And you know, it's not, I can't work out a reason. You know, they reapplied to race in the series, and we had a couple of other teams as well and do that. And you know, they did the entire bidding process as well, which is even stranger. And you know, they are going to be a big loss. But you know, this happens, especially in sim racing, and it's just paving the way for new up and coming talent and somebody to take the Super League crown. I'm not saying that nobody could if they were still here, but you know, it's definitely going to make it easier. The box has been rather unstoppable in the last couple of years.
Indeed, that's very much the case. So there are a few new teams this year. We've already mentioned THR, who have come up through the ranks and have been elevated to the series. Also, with Burst Esports pulling out, that left another space open as well. Who are the new teams, Ryan? Yes, indeed.
Nocturne and Super Venturi, I believe.
Super Venturi. Okay, make sure I can confirm that. You see, this is how long we've been away. My memory's already failing as to which teams were here last year. But yes, you're right. Super Venturi have come from Super Light, which they finished second place in. Also, the Mood Auto Concepts team is brand new. They came up from Super League Lights last year as well, where they were only 8th in the standings, although they obviously impressed the GPWC staff enough to be elevated up to the top flight of GPWC sim racing. Let's talk a few more headlines. We've already mentioned the new car that we have. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I love that we have a car that represents the real world of Grand Prix racing. At the time that we're using it, it really cements GPWC as a virtual parallel for the real world of Grand Prix racing for people who have clearly been priced out of it. Only 20 people can race in the real world of Grand Prix racing in a year, usually. And with GPWC and with sim racing, it's open to a lot more people and a lot more teams, and it's significantly cheaper and pretty much just the same in terms of competitiveness. GPWC, a lot of people overlook sim racing because GPWC is it's an amateur series. People, the majority of drivers who are out here are not professional sim racers. They have outside of this, they have jobs outside of this, but that does not mean that they're not competitive. I mean, you know this more than because you've raced level, but even I race in the 2, which is the 4th tier of GPWC. I don't world of Grand Prix racing and allows them to really show off their abilities.
I think we lost you for that, Caitlin. Seem to be having some
good
technical difficulties there. I only got about half of that sentence.
Waffling on for ages. That's a shame.
I know, I almost feel bad for you. I think you're here now, okay, so we can
see if that helps.
We can run again.
Okay, I was just extremely competitive. It's great that we now have a car that can help the drivers demonstrate just how competitive they are compared to the real world of Grand Prix racing, which obviously is not quite elitist and difficult to get into. So yes, new car, good thing for the league, and the league is important for sim racing. That was the overview of the waffle I just went for anyway, but yeah, there you go.
And I was picking up the first part about being an amateur league. A lot of these guys, have been competing in other series, and in a lot of cases have been earning some money as well. So it's sort of, for some of these guys, they are, semi-professional. And in the past years at GPVWC, there's been prize money involved as well. So sim racing's been good in the last few years for getting people's names out there. Some big names have made it into the real world. James Baldwin, Rudy Van Buren, spring to mind. And
actually, that brings me on to
from, amateur leagues.
That brings me on to the next point that I was going to bring up, which is congratulations to Agustin Canapino. Augustin has, of course, been racing with GPWC for a good few years now, and he is, we are delighted to say, going to be racing in the real world of IndyCar full-time this season over in the States, and it is absolutely fantastic to see that a driver who's raced with us is achieving so much success. And he's going to be racing at the actual Indy 500 as well, which I consider to be one of the best real-world motorsport events of all time. And the fact that we're going to be seeing him on our televisions and on our computer screens and all that in the real world of motorsport is so exciting, and I will absolutely be cheering him on like I've never cheered on a driver in IndyCar before. But yes, unbelievable stuff. Agustin Canapino raced for Adonis here last year, and even though he hasn't necessarily come through sim racing because he was a racing driver in the real world before that with the Argentine Super Turismo series and all of that, we still like to think that GPWC was a nice big stepping stone in his career, and of course GPWC supports him in everything that he does this year.
I mean, looking back at the history, GPVWC has brought through a few people who've gone on to do great things in the real world of racing. You know, another one that springs to mind, Luke Browning.
Yes.
Won the British Formula 4 and British Formula 3 championship, and he's now didn't he just win the Aston Martin Young Driver of the Year award as well? So he'll be testing an Aston Martin hybrid F1 car as well soon.
Oh wow! Well, I hadn't heard that. I had heard that he won the GP3 championship last year, which is very exciting.
And I think it's 200 or 250,000 pound cash. I think it was Luke who won that.
Wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, we have brought some drivers through. Again, Rue Van Buren was even racing here at one point, I believe, in ITC.
ITC and Super League. Won Super League in 2017.
Yeah, that was a little bit. Was that no? That was the year I joined GPVWC.
2017 was the year he won it.
Yeah. So, and he's racing Porsche Carrera Cup BNL.
Indeed.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
World's fastest gamer of 2017. Don't forget.
Yes, he was. And then even, you know, the names are getting away from me. Raced for Edge and Subaru Levorg in ITC. Why can't I remember his name? It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me in a few minutes. No, I don't.
Because I think Risto's done some real life testing recently as well.
He was ITC champion. I can't remember, but we're getting away from the point.
Okay.
GPVWC, great for sim racing, great for real races too. I'd like to say that racing here has developed some people, you know, taught them good racecraft, etc.
Indeed. The final headline that I was going to bring up is that we have a revamped broadcast for this season. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. Especially, I'd like to give big shout outs to a whole bunch of people who have been a big part of this. Jack Mayer and Lee Davidson, Niels Tiemann, who has joined the team recently, Owen Harmon has done a lot of work. Edster has been there and given us a good run. Ewan Gale, plenty of people have been working very, very hard behind the scenes, not least you, Ryan, Elliott, and the other commentators for this season. And if I'm forgetting anyone, then please do correct me.
Our broadcast director, Syzmon Frelik.
Indeed,
well,
Frelik.
There. The list can go on and on. Obviously, we're working on a volunteer.
Pictures that you're seeing now. Yeah, we're going to have a much more structured broadcast for this season. We're going to potentially have pit reporters and people jumping in some races. We've had a lovely, I've got it open now actually, we've got a lovely official pronunciation guide provided by Scott Sovic, who of course is a Super League driver himself. And I can see, for example, on my second screen here that Christian Malkarek, for example, is pronounced Malkarek rather than Malcharek, which I've been saying in previous years. So apologies to Malcharek, and I would simply not have known that he was supposed to be pronounced Malkarek if it wasn't for this pronunciation guide. Scott Sovic, of course, is multilingual himself and has been all over Europe especially, and probably all over the world. So the right person to do something like this. And it's not just Super League either. He's written down Super Lights drivers and FS1 and FS2. Hasn't written down my name, so I guess everyone's going to be mispronouncing me this year. But anyway, I'm joking. How do you get Caitlin Penny wrong? I don't know. Some people spell it wrong, but anyway. Yeah, no, great work. Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much for this.
I think You know, looking at the broadcast, we've got a train of 5 cars going on in this test session,
We do.
which is interesting. It's almost like we're doing a race broadcast. They're all just battling away. This is the last thing I'd want if I was doing a test session. You know, following in slipstream, especially on a track like this with the middle sectors, like the worst thing in the world. Get so much understeer. I
Some
just want
dirty
clear.
air testing, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd want clear space personally, but I'm sure they know what they're doing.
David Fidock has updated us as well. Good to see David Fidock back in the YouTube chat. It's not just sim racing world champions that we produce here, and not just real life world champions. David said he went on to become Cornish world champion at milking a cow. So well done to David for doing that. Cornish world champion. That doesn't make sense. Do you mean Cornish champion? Because the last time I checked, Cornwall wasn't the world, as much as they like to think they are. But anyway, and some support for Shimon in the YouTube chat. Vincent Gutt saying Shimon is a broadcast goat. Indeed, thank you very much, Shimon, for providing us the images and the stream that we're watching right now. I guess another thing that we're going to have to deal with over the course of this year is we've been having some sort of issue with the actual broadcast machine itself, but we know about this issue, and it's something that a lot of good minds are being put to sort out before the actual season starts. So I expect that we're going to have a much smoother season in terms of broadcasting, and that is something to look forward to. You're right, there is a real train of cars out there on track right now. I wonder if they've actually communicated with each other here, and they're doing some dirty air testing, seeing how the cars run in traffic, and maybe they're going to swap around and give each other a go in the tow.
There's a mixture there. So the Edge and HRT guys are working together. So them out on track together makes sense, but it just looks like Luke Maguire's just tagged onto the back of this train.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll all, well, as we see one going off there, Stefan Rualt, former champion going off there. I'm sure some of the guys will be working together, sat in a Discord. Again, there's not really any point, but it's more probably just for fun for them, more than anything.
I noticed that there were a few flying laps going on just a little while ago. Some of the Edge drivers Epic racing drivers decided to put some real flyers in and then leave the server. So Hygo Poom there went within a second of Tom Stevens' overall fastest lap time, which is impressive because, I mean, we know how quick Tom is, and that lap time looks like an absolute banger. But yeah, Hygo managed to get within a second of it, first driver I saw do so, and has now completely disappeared from the server. So obviously has decided, right, that's enough, I've done my bit for the day, I'm off. But anyway, it's also worth noting that there are a lot of drivers who may well have left the server before this stream started, so we don't necessarily know that Stevens' lap is the fastest overall. We assume that it is. And in terms of lap times as well, or in terms of laps done, currently it looks as if Perseus Miram has the most laps. He's done 44 laps behind the wheel of the Green Stripes racing car, which you see there. More full green than green stripes so far. And he has, like I said, he's done 44 laps, which is plenty for a session such as this one, although there may have been drivers who did more and then left the server before we started streaming. So obviously we can't say with exact certainty that the order you're seeing is going to be the official order of the test, but this is just testing. The actual lap times and number of laps done don't really matter too much. It's what you get out of the test that you can apply in the actual series.
Yeah, you just crucially got to get the R&D points, really. That's gonna, having clean test sessions, getting the maximum out of your spend is crucial. It's the groundwork that you do at the start of the season that really impacts the rest of the year going forward. Especially no pressure on the new teams. Year one teams start with the base R&D and cash, so wherever they can save and maximize, it's really, really important. That's what I like to think, contributed to our success in our first year. But no pressure. It's not catastrophic, but every little helps, and we're in a sport where when it comes to race day, qualifying's decided in some cases by hundredths of a second. So every little helps, as we see Luke McQuire making a move on. I believe that was Denahan.
Yes, Jake Denahan, Edgy Sports. A couple of cars seem to have testing liveries out there right now, or no liveries at all.
A lot.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see the actual liveries revealed before the start of the year, but anyway. The liveries we are seeing are quite good. I do like that THR livery on the Super League car. We've seen it on smaller and slightly slower cars in the past, but I think that the widened 2023 GPVWC Super League car makes the car makes that livery come alive, especially from behind. I very much like that one, actually, not gonna lie. Talking of THR, I've been updated of a few things actually by Toby Davis, who is THR team boss, or is he not 10 team boss? It's one of the two. Anyway, he tells me. Oh God!
Sorry, that was a little bit hard, man.
So he says that we were right with the new teams. It's Super Venturi, Mood, THR, and Nocturne. And indeed, Nocturne and Mood were given last-minute opportunities to move up to Super League. They weren't initially supposed to be here, although of course, with Evolution and Burst Esports pulling out after the whole bidding process and all of that, and Royal Blue, that absolutely, they were allowed to jump up to Super League in a kind of last-minute promotion. It's very clear that we work together, THR and Nocturne, but we will not be doing that on track, says Toby. We are separating the race teams and engineering entirely separately to ensure that there's no funny business. We will probably end up crashing into each other sometime this season, but they're separate teams with their own identity. Yes, thank you for that, Toby. I was expecting that, but it's good to have confirmation that there's not going to be any funny business between the two teams. And to be honest, I don't see how there would be funny business because, I mean, it's not like you can. Actually, no. Now that I say that, it's a very stupid thing to say, isn't it? Teams will always find a way.
It's an interesting point though, and I feel like THR and Nocturne have had a little bit of, I don't want to say bad press about it, but for some reason people are picking up on the fact that them two are linked. It's really not unfamiliar at all.
No.
Holland and Edge work together. RSR work alongside Red Archer. All these teams have a link. Doesn't mean they help each other on track. We, same as THR and Nocturne are the same. We aren't in the same channels as Red Archer come race day, but we work together, to help set up or think about what direction we might want to go on upgrades, building real roads for the test server, stuff like that. And I feel like because they're so vocal about their partnerships being picked up in a way that I think is unfair. And I have full faith that they're a good addition to the championship, and I know how it feels as well. We were signed up for Super League Lights in 2020 and then got the opportunity to move up to Super League, so we've been in the same position, and I get where they're coming from. Our circumstance was a little bit different. It was before the whole bidding process, but I'm sure that they can make a good effort out of it.
It reminds me
very
of
committed teams.
It reminds me of the Red Bull group back in the early days of the team. They were, yeah. I mean, they brought Toro Rosso in, and then they were effectively the same team. I mean, they shared parts, they shared cars. 2008, not many people know this, but the Toro Rosso and the Red Bull in the real world of Grand Prix racing were exactly the same car, but with a different engine shoehorned in. And it still didn't stop Vettel from running into the back of Webber in the wet at Fuji 2007. So they may have been effectively the same team, run by the same people and all that, but the actual drivers and engineers knew that it was all for themselves, and they went at it. But yeah, it's a very similar thing here between THR and Nocturne. And yes, indeed, Toby is the Nocturne team boss. Chris Butcher is the official team boss of THR. And of course, Chris is a pretty quick driver himself, so I wonder if... and I don't think they will need a emergency driver at any point this year, because they have Luke McGuire and Tom Stevens, and their reserve, of course, is Luke Mitchell. But if they do have an emergency, maybe two of those drivers can't make it or something, I'm sure that Chris Butcher would do wonders in that car himself. Nocturne, we're apparently supposed to do Super Light, confirms Toby, which THR did last season. Tom Stevens is now driving for THR, and Chris Butcher is driving for Nocturne, so they have swapped. Oh, that's a good point. So Nocturne... so Chris is actually in the Nocturne car while running the THR car. My apologies, I misunderstood that, but yeah. So he is actually on the grid, never mind the whole emergency thing. He's going to be driving for Nocturne alongside Moritz Kropp. So yeah, that is a straight swap between the two of them. How do you reckon that'll work, Ryan, with a driver, you know, in one car running the other?
I don't fully understand that. Yeah,
no, but this happens a surprising amount. We've seen it happen a lot. I mean, the Hoeksters did it. I believe Mike Bell used to run a car that wasn't his own, and he, you know, drove in another team. And
so I always, when we first entered into Superleague Lights, as it was at the time, I drove for my own team.
Yeah,
and I have done all the way through ITC as well. I don't know. I don't see any benefit to it really. Because all he's gonna do is, I imagine, I don't know.
Seems like a bit of a conflict of interest, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But you know, there might be. I don't want to say this in a bad way, but maybe the one. That sounds so bad.
Okay, well, no, it's okay. So Toby's actually clarifying. Toby's clarifying this to me right now. He says that THR is the main team, and he says that they decided Tom had earned the drive by smashing the competition in FS1. It was easier to understand when Butch was driving in Super League Lights for this season, but of course now both teams are in Super League. That does make a lot of sense. Thank you very much, Toby.
That's kind of what I was gonna go for. I just didn't want to say it. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And the next message he sent me has "Don't tell anyone" in brackets, so I will not tell anyone what that was.
Oh, never mind.
I've got the secrets. Anyway, so would you? Okay, so one thing that is always difficult to understand with GPWC, because it tends to go on kind of behind the scenes, and yet is a very important part of the championship, is the bidding process that takes part before the season. Now, you've been kind of involved in that in a way that I've never been able to. So could you shed some light on how it works and what happened this year?
Oof. This is going to be a long one. So
we've got time.
We do have time, that's for sure. Each year, you know, the teams have budgets. So when you start off, you have a set budget. And then depending on, you know, how many years you've been in the championship, if you're able to save some, you can carry over. So for us, for example, technically we're a year 3 team, but in terms of money, we're a year 2 team because of some website issues. So we were able to carry some over. So you go into the season and you do bids, and you have a list of, you know, for the first instance, you've got a chief mechanic, chief designer, and a commercial manager. You can kind of gather what they all do, and you have a list that you can choose from with different attributes, which you have to sort of think about which ones will have the impact on the development path that you want to take. Some might be strong with like downforce compared to, I don't know, like something else. So then you submit bids. Everyone can bid at the same time. Whoever has the highest bid on said person wins. And then if you do not get your person, you have another round of bids with whoever's left over, basically. So it's finding a good balance of how much you're willing to spend, but you don't want to overspend. in the past, there's been teams that have been like year 5, year 6 year 5, year 6 teams that have gone ridiculous on some of the staff. I'm sure David Yunt won't mind me saying this, but last year he went crazy on chief designer. It was like 10 times what anyone else spent. So that's your sort of first stage. You also then have engines, so you can apply every now and again whenever it pops up to be an engine provider. Engines can be priced at, I think it's the minimum is 20 million. Anywhere above that as well. So again, it depends. Some teams can afford to just create an engine that's way too expensive, so nobody else buys it and nobody else can have the development path that they might want. And then you got some teams who need the money. So this year, a really popular choice has been the Minotaur. A really strong engine last year was the championship winning engine, and that's through the Red Archer team, so that's another part of the bidding process. You then have team personnel, where you choose a quantity of staff. You can hire at different levels as well, but there's a certain amount you're allowed to hire at certain levels, and typically people go more on the side of hiring the higher level people for the designer and mechanic, than maybe commercial manager. And then, is there anything else that I am forgetting? I think that is it. It's quite a long-winded process, and then throughout the year we have to submit our engine choices depending on how much wear we've had on our engines, and we submit our development, what packages we're going to be choosing for what rounds. Sometimes people compromise maybe one round to have a bigger upgrade at another. We see that in real life quite often. And then we do have little marketing events as well throughout, where every race you can put on essentially a hospitality package, which is interesting for the virtual people.
Sorry, look at this. We got another driver testing up the low downforce package, holding up absolutely everyone through the S's. That's brilliant.
Who is that? Do we know?
I don't know, but they're not going to be popular. That was great. Sandy Singh, okay.
It looked like another Edge car. So yeah, Sandy going to be popular in the debrief room after, I'm sure.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Is he going to box, or is he going to continue? I'd love it if he continued.
Oh my goodness. Oh, he's carrying on. Apparently this happened a couple of laps ago and he's just been circulating without a front wing ever since. Come on, Sandy.
He's got to be close to his lap total.
Oh yeah. Apparently he lost his front wing by punting his teammate. Okay, so...
If that's true, that is hilarious. But, it's funny, and thankfully Edge are quite an established team, so they've got a good budget. But if you were a brand new team doing something like that, it's just not the purpose of a test session.
No, it's not.
But anyway.
Oh goodness, talking of brand new, second on the leaderboard right now is Georgalis, who is, admittedly, they're second because Tom Stevens has now left the server, so we don't have the top time up there anymore.
And Mike Quint, who is also quite fast.
Indeed, but still, I believe George is new to the series as well. I don't recognise his name, so...
Reserve driver for Red Archer.
That's a way to establish yourself. Oh god, Red Archer, all three of their reserve drivers this year are Greek. That's interesting. I guess that does make sense, considering that, Team Arena, Nikos Evangelidakis, I think you can tell where he's from simply from his name there, but anyway. But yes, if he was to compete in a race this year, this would be his first GPWC race. Currently he's done one Academy Series round, I believe. Just one.
Yeah, I think he has.
But anyway. So yeah, another thing to bring up, I guess, is that we have a slightly revised calendar for this year. It's not how it was last year, as you can tell by the fact that we're not going to be racing at this circuit. there you see it. We start in San Marino, and for the first time, considering, well, for the first time for as long as I can remember, actually, we're actually going to be starting after the main Formula One championship. I've always thought of GPWC as starting right at the end of February or early March or whatever, and we still are, but because of the Bahrain Grand Prix being earlier, the GPWC San Marino Grand Prix is actually not going to be the first Grand Prix of the year. Here in Super League it is though, 9th of March there, so do not miss that. Then we have our Bahrain Grand Prix, followed by Australia with the relatively new layout of the Australian Grand Prix circuit. Of course, we did go there last year as well, but this is only the second time that we have used the revised layout. Saudi Arabia, we go to Jeddah. Now that is the first time that we are going to Jeddah with GPWC Super League. Interestingly though, I don't think it's the first time that we've been to Saudi. I believe that there was a Saudi Grand Prix on a different circuit many years ago, but I will have to get confirmation of that, which I will do in the background. Now look at that, we go from Saudi straight to Azerbaijan. So fantastic double header of street circuits there, which is going to cause some chaos, hopefully not too much. At least we don't have Monaco this year, because if those three were back to back to back, then I can't imagine our mental states would end up in good nick. The German Grand Prix after that, and that will be at the Hockenheimring. Nürburgring, my apologies, the Nürburgring. Okay, so we're going to the Nürburgring. Very, very nice. Very nice. Yes, indeed. Sorry, just checking the site to confirm that, but we are. The Spanish Grand Prix at Catalonia, as always. Then the Canadian Grand Prix, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. British Grand Prix, Silverstone Circuit. That is a staple of the calendar. The Hungarian Grand Prix. Then we have the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Singapore at Marina Bay, the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, Abu Dhabi at Yas Marina, and then we finish the championship just as we have done in previous years at the Brazilian Grand Prix. But yes, the main notable event there is the Jeddah Corniche circuit making its debut in GPWC, and it's a rather controversial addition to the calendar, considering how controversial it is in real life. I personally am very much looking forward to that round, because I think that for myself as an FS2 driver, it's probably going to be a good chance for me to score some points if I can, you know, keep out of the barriers, keep out of the inevitable wrecks that are going to happen up in front of me. And I mean, Super League will worry about that a bit less, because the drivers in Super League tend to be better, and you know, there are slightly fewer of them, so fewer accidents and all of that. But even so, with Jeddah being such a unique circuit, I imagine it's going to be something they've got to get used to.
Yeah, it is quite the calendar this year. There's only one track on there I think I would actually change, that being Singapore. Hate Singapore. But yeah, Jeddah's going to be fantastic. Not a fan of the country, but the racetrack, unbelievable. I'm looking forward to having Nürburgring back as well. I always love a German Grand Prix. I really love the Nürburgring and Hockenheim, to be fair. Germany has some good Grand Prix tracks. And Brazil, notably on my birthday this year, which is interesting. I love Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo. I can't remember the name of the track. Going out, man. Interlagos. That's it. Sorry. Yes. Flippin' heck. It's a fantastic track, and it was actually the last time I raced Super League at the end of last year as well. So I've gone straight out of the driving seat into the commentary box.
Indeed. So, yes. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by looking things up on the website as we're talking, but there we go. Yeah, well, you might be pleased if Singapore is not your favourite track, that there will potentially be some new track changes for this year, considering that there are some track changes in real life as well. That fiddly chicane that goes under the grandstand and all is now gone, and there are some more changes around that particular part of the track. And Barcelona, apparently, we could be using a layout that doesn't have the chicane in the final sector. And actually, I would like to see that, because that chicane doesn't make any sense anyway, and no one likes it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. what would you say your favourite track is out of the calendar this season?
That's a tricky one. Actually, no, it's not. Silverstone. Silverstone easily.
Really?
Yeah, sorry. I know that's predictable coming from, you know, a British person, but I mean, I've been to Silverstone plenty of times. It's an awesome place to spectate from. The racing there is amazing. I always love the British Grand Prix. It's one of the best every single year in both the real world of motorsports and the virtual world. And to drive, it's an absolute treat. I've, you know, got some good results there in the past. Yeah, Silverstone's awesome. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there.
Haven't you been to Silverstone in real life?
Yeah, of course I've been to Silverstone in real life, but I find it a very boring track, personally.
Okay.
If I was, I mean, I've already said I love it. You know, Interlagos is definitely my number one. But if I'm going to ignore that because that's just, you know, it's just the best track in the world. So I need to give another track a chance. What other track would I choose? I like Baku. Baku's a good track.
Yes, and I'm really looking forward to Baku this year. I think out of all the circuits, I reckon Baku is probably the one where I'm most likely to score, you know, some decent points. Because I've done well there in the past, and I think that, you know, being a street circuit race immediately after another street circuit race, I think some people are going to be getting a little frustrated, a little reckless, and this is especially in Formula Sprint 2, where there are a few more drivers who do tend to get carried away. And I think that if I can avoid those accidents, then I might well score some good points. You know, not a win or anything, but maybe a top 10, that would be good.
I think equally though, some people might, after Saudi, some people might be getting into the street racing, you know, sort of groove.
Maybe. That's a good point.
So people might be a bit calmer second time round. And I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of street circuits, but Baku, I just love that track. It's really, really, really fun. And you know, you never know. I might have an outing this year, even though I'm meant to be commentating. I might hand over the mic to somebody else and have a punt. But if I was to choose, it would be Azerbaijan or Interlagos that I would do that at. I think I'll do plenty of laps around Saudi offline because that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little confused by the website's history of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It suggests that we went to Saudi in 2002 for Super League, and then that Formula Sprint 1 went to Saudi in 2005. But when you actually check those series, they very much didn't. So you have the actual Grand Prix listed on the website, but it still says editions numbering 0. So that's a bit weird. But anyway,
maybe somebody in the chat can advise us who's been around since.
Maybe they did testing there in those years.
Maybe.
It just doesn't make sense that it's the only track that says editions numbering 0, because why is it there?
Maybe a cancelled Grand Prix? Who knows?
It could have been cancelled, yeah. Or maybe they did pre-season testing there, I don't know. Oh my goodness, what was the Gibraltar Grand Prix? Apparently in 2006 there was a Gibraltar Grand Prix, Formula Sprint 1.
Didn't know Gibraltar had a racetrack.
It doesn't, it was held at Jerez. That's interesting.
Huh. Oh. Is that in Gibraltar?
No, it's not. I think it's probably kind of like how, you know, the Grand Prix, the Nürburgring one year was called the Luxembourg Grand Prix.
Yeah.
You know, the San Marino Grand Prix isn't actually in San Marino, for example. You know, that sort of thing. Yeah, I know this is completely off topic. I was just going through the website, seeing what we've done, and I saw the Gibraltar Grand Prix. Huh. We've done a Czech Grand Prix? There's an Irish Grand Prix?
Yeah, Czech will be Brno.
Yeah. Mondello? We went to Mondello in 2009? Goodness me.
How the championship has evolved.
Indeed. Anyway, sorry about that, but yeah. just a quick GPVWC history lesson.
Yeah, for
Now,
both, for us and for the viewers.
yeah, jolly good, jolly good. I love the GPWC website, by the way. If you've never been to the GPWC website, if you search up gpwc.com and then you just go for a little hunt, see what you can find. There are some brilliant things that you can find and look into about the past of GPWC racing. I tell you what, actually, the Czech Grand Prix wasn't held at Brno. It was actually held at the no. It was held at the Autodrom Most, which is crazy.
Yes.
I know the circuit. I've seen Euro NASCAR and TCR racing there as well, but I cannot imagine, Formula One style single seaters racing there.
Oh, for everything. I'm sure they'll probably do some like regional Formula 4 or something there.
Well, yes, but not Formula One
3.
style.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That was also held in 2009, so clearly 2009 was a year for one-off races.
Very cool.
Indeed. I've just been messaged by Jan Granquist saying we're... yes, Jan's actually waiting for an interview. Are you up for an interview, Ryan?
Why not? Get him in.
Let's get him in. Hello, Jan.
Hello there.
Very, very nice. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, really, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay as well, thank you very much. So Jan, I know you've been delving into the commentary box recently for a few outings, but I understand that you're very much still involved as a driver in Super League. What's your job for this year?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For this year, nothing too big really changes in terms of my driving. Still get to do quite a lot behind the scenes with the team, obviously being the founder of Superleague. But Marco as well has been a big help, and we're getting a lot of things sorted just to get started for the season. There's been a lot of things going on, even though the season hasn't even started yet.
Indeed. Well, you'll be racing for Super Venturi this season alongside Jakob Lalu by the looks of things, so an all-finished lineup there. How are you looking forward to this season, and what do you think your kind of goals and such are going to be?
I like to set myself a few goals here and there. I definitely would like to finish inside the top 5 quite consistently, if that's possible, but we'll have to wait and see where we actually stand after the first race to really confirm those sorts of beliefs. But for sure, Lalu as well has done an outstanding job at just finding more pace recently, and really he's become one of the top contenders, in my opinion, for all these higher level sim racing leagues.
Indeed. Now, looking at your results actually, last season, which was your first in GPVWC Super League, seemed to have gone quite well. You only did a few races, but the ones you did, I mean, you were in the points every time you finished. What do you think? Can you carry that momentum into the season? And do you think that maybe people have expectations of you now?
I think it's difficult to say really where we're at. I mean, I definitely like to spend my time making setups for cars and getting speed that way, but it doesn't really tell too much the results from last season where I'll actually end up. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect.
Fair enough. Just being distracted a little by an overtake going on track here. Owen McGorky round the outside of one of the unliveried Edge cars or Epic cars. Oh, look at that! All the way through the arena. I think they backed off the pace there a little. I think Jake Dennehan there is the other car, we're being told. But yeah, some cracking racing going on out on the circuit, side by side, all the way through the final sector. Jan, how are you getting on with the new car, and how do you think it will be for racing?
Yeah, it's been good actually. I've heard, I definitely understand some people's concerns, seeing how different it was to drive originally. I don't know. I think the car's a good challenge right now. Definitely think it's also quite easy to drive in like most of the tracks anyway that I've driven. That's all I can really say about that. But the car's car's working nice for us. We've found some decent setups already for the first few rounds. Yeah, we've been working quite a lot behind the scenes, to be fair, just to sort of get a head start right now, so we don't need to work too much later on.
Indeed. We've just been talking about the calendar here. Which races in particular are you looking forward to?
Ooh, that's a good one. There are some tracks that I do like.
Hopefully all of them.
Yeah, for sure. But if I do have to pick a few, there are some tracks that I do like, but I don't necessarily always end up being too competitive in those, which I guess Spa is one that I'm definitely looking forward to, and what else is there? I mean, really, Jeddah is one that sticks out because that's going to be new, and it's an interesting, fast-paced street circuit, so it's going to be definitely a fresh challenge for all of us.
And final question from me, where's everyone gone? There's only 6 people left now.
Yeah, I don't know if you should be asking me that.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, I'll hand over to Ryan if that's okay. Ryan, do you have any questions for Jan here?
But touching on your last point, yeah, we're not going to have much to commentate on soon, are we? Only 6 people left in the session. How have you found the step up? You know, full-time, Jan, it's definitely a big step, and in terms of commitment as well. You know, to be at the front, you're going to definitely be a lot more active than you might have been in some other series. How are you finding it so far? Is it probably on first question?
Yeah, it's not really a big problem so far. I mean, constantly learning more and more about car setups and all that, so just aiming to become a bit more, you know, efficient. And I mean, the most important thing obviously is just to really enjoy sim racing as a whole, even if you're doing it as a hobby or even more seriously. And for me, certainly, I tend to enjoy every bit of learning about sim racing as I do just being out on track and racing others.
Definitely second that. Sometimes I feel like people forget why they sim race, so it's really quite nice to hear that come from you, obviously being one of the guys at the top as well. So when you were saying earlier on that you were aiming for top 5, was that on an individual level or was that for your team?
I'd say that's for the team, to be honest. I think Lalu has a very good chance of really surprising a few people here and there. We'll have to see though how that pans out, but really from the off season I can tell you we're going to have a pretty competitive team, at least from what I can gather.
So as a spectator, I'm curious on this one. Why Lalu?
He's just a good friend of mine.
Connection? Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of that as well, but really there's another big connection here to make, which is Overpower Rigs, who I got in contact to at first, and they got to put their logos on our cars, and then we found a way for Lalu to get himself a Overpower rig as well, so we're both now racing with some pretty high-end rigs, and yeah, we've been enjoying it since, and now we're in the same team and competing under the same flag.
That's great. I mean, you know, Lalu's had some experience in GPVWC throughout. You know, he's done guest rounds and did a season in Super League. He's done some in Super League Lights as well. But something seems to have happened, you know, in the last 3-4 months for Lalu. He seems to have just unlocked something which I don't think we've seen from him before. You know, he was really good in another single-seater series, winter series, and you know, he definitely shocked a few people there, I think. And if you can bring that into Super League, you know, that's really good for him, and for you and the team as well. And it's good to see, you know, as well, that you've managed to create a partnership to allow yourselves to be racing on better equipment. You know, we talk about sim racing being the cheaper alternative to, you know, real world motorsport, and you know, it definitely is, but there's still quite a large outlay for the you know, if you want to be on the top sim rigs, you're looking at still a few £1,000, euro, dollars, whatever currency you want to go for. And partnerships are really, really important for, you know, some people need it for covering server costs, buying equipment, you know. We have people getting gloves and boots and stuff like that as well. So it's good to see that people are actually investing in our sport, if we can call it sport, that is.
Absolutely, it definitely is a sport. There's any with those types of connections, really. That's how a lot of sports really start. They start to gather an audience, and then they gather partnerships, really, just like sim racing is.
Yeah, and I think the COVID years have definitely helped the audience in sim racing. We're reaching new levels, and even myself, my team, we've been able to bring on 3 new sponsors for this season, which will help entry fees, stuff like that. So it's really good, and sim racing and GPVWC especially making a step in the right direction. And that's all from me. I don't know if you got anything else you want to say, Caitlin.
That was a really good interview, actually. I was just enjoying listening to that. Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for dropping in, Jan. It's been good to see you, and good luck for this year.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good rest of the evening for you two as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, looking at the time, you know, we're on 10 past 9 UK time. Got 2 drivers on circuit, 5 in the server, sorry, but only 2 on track. One of which is one of my drivers, Patrick Rozak. You know, new to us this year, completing what is a Polish trio for us now at RSR.
Yeah.
To attract the Polish drivers.
So I've been a little confused about the time of this session, actually, because I was told that we'd be commentating the final 2 hours, and then we've joined in and there were about 3 hours left. So yeah, it sounds like it's been restarted at some point.
Yeah, there was our factor update in the middle, or
okay.
I think maybe first hour or something like that. Just throwing everything off.
But we're still expecting the session to officially end in about 50 minutes, right?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. That's what I would expect anyway. Yeah, just a shame that we only have, you know, 5 cars still on the server, 2 out on track right now. Chris Shepherd appears to have joined us in the Red Archer car. That's the first time that we've seen him today. So far, the fastest lap out there is David Yunt, 117.5, although obviously there have been drivers on who have gone significantly quicker. And yeah, the teams that we have out there currently, we have Epic Racing for David Yunt, Edge have Jake Denahan and Sandeep Singh, RSR have Patrick Rojak, oh dear, and Rojak actually goes for a spin as we're talking about him. And then Chris Shepherd is driving for Red Archer, and there is the Red Archer car looking nice and menacing in its dark livery. Taking off to the real world of Grand Prix racing this year, just leaving the majority of the car unpainted and bare carbon fibre. But anyway, helping us get used to it, I suppose.
I'm a big fan of pre-season liveries in general.
Yeah.
I wish it happened more in the real world. You know, that's the beauty of sim racing. It's quite easy and obviously cheap to chuck on whatever livery you want. And a lot of people have opted to go for a pre-season livery this time. The only people with their actual liveries, I think, is Super Venturi, THR, Nocturne. I don't know, apparently Super Venturi is a one-off as well. I know Epic's a one-off. We don't even have a livery on our car, it's just blue, if you want to call that a one-off. Yeah, Edge and HRT as well. I'm a fan of that, and I used to love when Red Bull did one-off liveries for testing. That camo livery was, I'm not a big fan of camo wraps, but something about that livery was just beautiful.
They'll do it again someday if we pester them enough, but anyway.
Yeah.
So, I've been looking again. I've been looking through the GPWC website and getting hopelessly distracted because that's what I do. But I think you were talking about drivers earlier who have progressed from GPWC, gone on to do other things. I think the Edge driver you were talking about must have been Kevin Siggy Redden.
It was. As soon as I
Indeed.
finished the sentence, I knew it was him. You moved on to another point and I knew it just came to my mind.
Indeed, yes. He won 3 ITC championships, all for different teams actually, and
Was
he's been racing in the real world as well, hasn't he?
Yes, he was. I think he's team BMW Esports. I don't know if he's doing what he's doing in real life. But I know he is doing some sort of racing. I've seen it on YouTube. Have we had any more?
Any more what?
Any more people who've gone on to big things in the real world?
Probably. I guess I'll look that up next. I got super
One for the
side.
YouTube chat.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, were you trying to say something there, Shimon? Yes, indeed. Sorry, just confirming the Siggy winning 3 championships there. So I actually got sidetracked by the 2009 Super League series because I saw another thing, which made me think, whoa, they raced there. But yeah, as well as racing in Mondello Park and Autodrome Mus this year, they did the historic Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez, so not the updated one, because obviously the updated one hadn't come out yet in 2009. But they also did the Circuit de Charade for the French Grand Prix. If you know Charade, it's a ridiculously long circuit. It's 8 kilometers long, so that's, a kilometer longer than Spa. Corners everywhere. It's like a racetrack from the 1960s. I mean, they used it in the 1960s, so the fact that they did that for Super League is incredible. But yeah, 2009, what a time to be alive. Wish I'd been a part of it back then.
Would have been 8 years old then.
Yep.
I mean, that's not far off when I actually started sim racing. I was 10 when I started sim racing.
Why did they do more laps at Charade than they did at Suzuka? That doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of people in... I don't know, but anyway. Jake Tenahan says bring back Mondello. Yes, that would be cool.
Mondello's a cool track. I've always wanted to make the trip over. Indeed,
indeed. Let's have a look through the YouTube chat, actually. Not much is going on track right now, I'm afraid. Shepard and Rojak, keeping it alive. But yeah. Moritz Kropp saying Baku's the best circuit on Earth. Shimon saying Singapore, love heart. Yeah, a lot of fans of the street circuits here today. Although the new layout is boring, says Moritz. Okay. David Fidock still providing some banter. Owen McGorgy's there. Decent test, jolly good. Good to hear it. And there's Luke Maguire too. Good to see you here, Luke. Jolly good. And Ryan, very nice. I know it's you. There are multiple Ryans in sim racing, but yes, I knew that was you. Don't you worry. Rudy Van Buren says Sandeep. Yes, we mentioned Rudy earlier. I outqualified Rudy for my first sim race. He had a massive grid penalty, but still, I'll count that. I started ahead of him.
Yeah, that's one to remember.
Indeed. And we got to the first corner, and he passed me, and I didn't see him again.
Sounds about right. He was a proper alien. I wonder, is he doing much sim racing these days? I feel like I haven't seen his name out there.
I'm not sure he has time, to be honest.
Too busy with his real world campaigns.
Indeed. Patrick Rojak continues to lap. How's Patrick doing? Have you been talking to him about this season?
He's just plucking away. He's done a couple of academy races now. He had a podium in academy, and he's definitely one for the future. He's going to be racing FS2 this season as well, I believe. FS1. Sorry, I should have known that. And he's gonna have a good year, I'm sure. And his first attempt at GPVWC, and you know, the world's his oyster if he can prove himself in FS1 this year. Maybe make his way up.
Indeed. So we have a. I tell you what, let's take a look through the entry list for this season. Tell you who's around, who's doing what. Edge Esports have Jake Denahan this year, who was very strong in FS1 these past few years, and of course just a very strong driver in general. Did a few Super League races last year, notably finishing 5th in Singapore. And Jake will join the 2021 champion Stefan Rohr in that car. And that of course means no Maciej Winnick here this year. Maciej not with us, and I don't exactly know why that is, but that's a bit of a shame. I felt like Maciej was really coming on last year, and I thought that he was going to be a championship contender this season, but not on the entry list for whatever reason. Do you know anything about that, Ryan?
No, I don't. I don't know what the cause for it is, but definitely towards the middle to end of last season, he did seem to be a little bit less present.
That's very true.
So
that's very true.
Maybe he just didn't have the time. You don't know what's happening in people's situations.
It was immediately after he got his new sim rig and immediately started, plucking away at it, getting some wins, 3 wins on the bounce, and then just seemed to fizzle out a bit, even though he was in championship contention nearly right up to the end. Anyway, Holland Racing Team have Janis Voorburn and Pascal Pollens, and of course Pascal, the winner of this particular Grand Prix last year, the Mexican Grand Prix. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he does in Super League this season. Janis Voorburn had a rather consistent season last year as well, plenty of point scoring positions, and his last 6 finishes of 2022 were all top 10, so look out for Janis as well. Red Archer, we were talking about Chris Shepherd earlier on, and he is the only car on the server right now, so thank you, Chris, for keeping us watching something at least, even though everyone else has seemingly disappeared. And unfortunately, I think that probably means we won't have long left on the broadcast now, but anyway, we can watch Chris while he's there. Red Archer also have 3 emergency/reserve drivers listed, but no second primary driver just yet. So whether that means they haven't signed anyone yet, or they just haven't officially signed them through the website. Do you know who it is?
Same as it has been for the last couple of years with TS Moose.
TS Moose, okay.
Again.
It just doesn't say that on the website.
Yeah, he's been a little bit inactive recently, again, some real world things, so I think while, again, it costs money to have people contracted, so they're probably just not signing him yet, because you'd be paying for like a month's salary for no real reason if you can't make the pre-season tests.
Okay, that's sneaky. But yeah, like I said, there are three emergency/reserve drivers signed, all Greek drivers. Powered by RSR, your team, you have Tomasz Vlok and Daniel Stepkowski, and of course we had a few other drivers out there, Patrick Rojak, for example, giving us some action in the preseason test. And Vlok and Stepkowski, they were really coming up last year. I was watching their progress with interest. How are you helping them going into this year?
Yeah, so third year now with the team. It was last year was pretty surreal. We went from our first year, I specifically remember Daniel qualifying second last.
Yeah.
And then, the back end of last year he was pretty much the driver, definitely one of the top 3 drivers to beat. And Tomasz, again, same sort of thing. He hasn't quite had as big of a jump because he was always a bit further up than Daniel when they first started, but them two just work together so well. and they're working together in multiple series as well, not just in GPVWC. They were doing Formula Challenge, GT Challenge together. So they've got a really good working relationship, and I'm just happy to keep it going, to be honest.
So I'm sure.
I like a bit of consistency, personally, and you don't want to mess with something good. And I think this year we're going to be the ones to watch.
A lot of teams end up being a bit of a revolving door towards the end of seasons, but you seem to have a very nice, stable lineup there, and that's always good to see.
I'm glad you've said that, because in our 2 seasons we have never had any other driver than them 2.
Wow, it's impressive.
Them 2
really
have
is.
raced every single Super League race that we've done.
That's very impressive consistency. Very nice.
Yeah, that's something I'm quite proud of.
And they both scored podiums last season as well. I tell you what,
Yeah,
I don't remember
and
who
pole
won.
positions.
Yeah, I don't remember who won the the most improved driver award at GPWC Day if they handed that out. But I think Stepkovsky should probably have won that.
Yeah, I think it was.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe Matthias, maybe, I can't remember.
Epic Racing Team this year have Fabio Sixter and Jeffrey Fournier. Clearly Sixter, we always talk about his battle against technical issues. Clearly he's giving it another go. Jeffrey Fournier, of course, we all know Jeffrey. He is an absolute staple of GPWC, and so he should be probably one of the most exciting drivers to watch in terms of his style, his overtakes. Of course, he is a GPWC Grand Prix winner. It's been a while, but he won the first race of the 2018 Australian Grand Prix, so famously with Epic Racing Team in their first outing. Yet to repeat that performance, but I really do believe that he has the ability to do so, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jeffrey pick up a victory this year. Adonis Racing have Zolt Schukes, which the official GPWC pronunciation guide says should be pronounced Such, actually, so Zolt Such. Racing for Adonis, and also Robin Panzer moving over from Burst Esports, who have pulled out of the season so late. Stax Racing have Philip Pushke and Justin van der Smitten's a reserve, isn't he? Because he's doing full-time FS2, I believe. So Stax only with 1 driver listed there. Any update on that, Ryan? Do you know the second driver there? Whoops.
No. Yeah, that was a mistake by Chris. I know Christian's been struggling to get that second driver sorted. I don't know who he's got lined up, but Pushka, former champion.
Indeed. 2013, I think.
I'm not too sure on the...
Might have been 2014. It was 2015, so I was wrong in both counts.
Yeah, all was a good bet, and it took him a little while to get on his feet, but come the end of the season, he was regularly fighting for the top 10, so... Oh yeah. Solid driver.
Philip improved. He got back up to where not quite where he was before, obviously, because he returned after several years off, and before that he was winning races, but he got back up there and, discovered just how competitive it is now. I'm also interested to see that Stax have David Fidok listed as an emergency driver, since David retired during last season, but obviously leaving the door open for a return, and that is good to see. Pescara ADG have Alessandro Quinte and Andrea Catalani, a full Italian lineup there. And Quinte in particular, I feel like could have done a lot better last year. He had a fair few retirements, I'm afraid to say. Only finished 3 races despite doing the majority of them. And I think that if Quinte had made it to the end of more of them, he'd have scored plenty more points. And don't forget as well, the first race of last season in Imola, he was on course for what looked like a strong podium, potentially even a win. He was right up the front for the majority of the race, and then unfortunately got taken out towards the end. So if Quinte can have a better year this year, I think that he will be another one to look out for. But just got to work on that consistency and bringing the car home. And as for Andrea Catalani, this will be his very first Super League season, so he is a bit of an unknown, a bit of a question mark. Actually, yeah, Ryan, do you know Andrea from anywhere? Have you seen him racing around?
I don't, honestly. Don't
Fair
recognise
enough.
the name. But we've just got to wait and see, don't we? Might be an absolute rocket ship.
Indeed, indeed. The next team, Green Stripes Racing, they have Christian Malkarek, who of course did a couple of races in Super League back in 2020, and since then has been a little absent on the grid. So welcome back to Christian Malkarek, and of course Fabian Schierzik, who drove for Black Hawk in Super Lights last year and had a 4th place finish in Azerbaijan. So welcome to Super League for Fabian Schierzik as well. He will be making his debut in San Marino if all goes to plan. THR have Luke Maguire and Tom Stevens, and they are potentially, I don't know if they're the team to beat, but they are certainly one of the top teams. And actually, I would say that is I'm going to say, I think Edge and THR have probably the 2 most exciting lineups on the grid, in my opinion. And I would love to see an Edge versus THR championship fight. What do you think, Ryan?
It's, the thing you have to think about Super League, it's not just about who's driving the car.
Yeah,
the development does make a massive impact, especially on new teams who can't afford to develop all the way to the end of the season, like the developed teams can. The long races as well, as some of these other series that they might have competed in before are quite often sprint races. The tyre drop-offs not quite as much, so definitely big names, but we'll see. I think in Super League experience counts for a lot.
Tom Stevens comes into the season after having won the Formula Sprint 1 championship last year, so he is on a bit of a roll, has completely skipped Super Lights despite doing 2 Super Lights races during last season. Luke Maguire, actually, looking at his results, I'm a little surprised that he seems to have had a bit of a Super League curse. Admittedly, he has been driving for some struggling teams over the years, but while he's been doing things like winning Formula Sprint 1 in 2021, he won race in Formula Sprint 2, he won race in Super Lights, came 3rd in Super Lights last year. He's been doing Super League races, but actually having a bit of trouble by the look of it. Hasn't finished any of his last 3 Super League races. So I think he's got something to prove here this year, does Luke Maguire. And honestly, I think he will. I think he's better than his results show. And this is why, as much as I like looking through the site and seeing how people have done in the past, it's never entirely representative, is it?
No, you never know what's happened in them races as well. All we see is DNFs, but he could have been taken out for all we know.
Exactly. And yeah, Maxim Bewley asking, is there only one driver? Yes, unfortunately there is. Chris Shepherd absolutely on his own out on the circuit just now. But anyway. Okay, Super Venturi have Jakub Lalu and Jan Granquist. We were talking to Jan earlier. He is always absolutely lovely to speak to. And Jakub as well drove in the second part of the last year's Super League Championship. He's done some Super League outings in the past, and of course got his first top 10 finish last year as well, with 10th in Italy and then 9th in Singapore as well. Look out for Jakub working on his consistency this year and hoping for some more top 10 finishes. And of course Jan Granquist as well, very exciting new-ish driver, came in kind of partly through the 2021 season in FS2 and FS1, but his Super League outings, while scarce, have shown that he has a heck of a lot of potential, and I think that he is going to be another one to watch for, at least for podiums. I'm not going to put pressure on him for a win or anything, but podiums are perfectly achievable for Jan Granquist this year. Then we reach the all-German Mode Auto Concepts team, a brand new team owned by Justin Meister. And they have Florian Geyer, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. I think the most experienced full-time driver on the grid, who of course has 4 Super League wins to his name, but none since 2017. So still the redemption for Flo Geyer. Scarce and waiting to be had, but he has another chance to achieve that this season. And then David Wasserman as well, who drove in Super Lights last year and is yet to make his Super League debut. Finally, Nocturne have the lineup of Chris Butcher and Moritz Kropp. We've been talking about them a fair bit today as well, and the team boss Toby Davis. But Chris Butcher is never one to be overlooked. He has done some Super League races in the past, and of course, a winner in some of the lower categories. Actually, Formula Sprint 2 champion of 2018. I remember that season well. He was pretty darn special to watch, especially in the first half of that year. And then finally, Moritz Kropp, of course, the fellow German who has been doing a few Super League outings. He's done 6 races now, but again, a lot of wins in the junior categories. Won 2 races last season in Formula Sprint 1, and now he too skips Super Lights entirely and moves up to Super League. We have a strong lineup to the Super League grid this year, and I, for one, am so looking forward to seeing how they race. I think the team to beat this year are going to be Edge. I think that Edge have the edge over their opponents in terms of experience on the grid, combined with the drivers themselves having so much experience and ability. And I would like to know if you agree with that, Ryan. But yeah, I think Edge are going to be tough to beat.
I mean, if I agreed with that, I'd be a pretty terrible team manager.
Very true, very true. I'm not saying that you're... Yeah, I'm not trying to put your team down.
All the way. You know, we proved last year that we were arguably, towards the end of the season, the strongest team. And I think we're going to have it this year. I think this year's going to be our year. My guys have proved that they can be consistent, not just in terms of scoring, but even just being at the races and the commitment off, you know, outside of the race itself. I think we got it in the bag. In terms of for a rookie team, you know, you've went on about THR. I think you're sleeping on Super Venturi.
Really?
I think that's a stronger lineup.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I think Jan is fantastic. He's proven himself, you know, on one-off occasions to be able to be in, you know, easily point scoring positions. I think even on his first race, which I believe was at Red Archer, he was like top 5 or something. And I think Lalu's taken a massive step this winter. Don't know why. Don't know what's changed other than apparently hardware. But in other series, he has been honest, like I've never seen before from him. And I think that lineup's going to be pretty strong.
You saw Tom Stevens' lap earlier, though, right?
That means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Means he can do it.
Doesn't mean anyone else couldn't beat it.
Oh, sorry. I tell you what. Looking at the times that I've seen, actually, Luke Maguire was in the 1:14s at one point. How did we miss that?
Mike Quint went faster than Tom as well.
Did he?
I think there's been a common theme between the test sessions of who's been putting in hot laps and who hasn't.
That's true. That's true.
And
you can never really say
one or two teams.
Yeah. You can never really say that testing is representative, but it, you know, it shows us something. It's something we can't completely discard.
And I think Red Archer's going to be good as well. I think Matthias is absolutely at the peak of his driving at the moment. And as long as Chris joined in a few rounds late last year. As long as he doesn't have another baby appear at some point this year, and he's able to fully commit, I think he can be up there. You know, he's challenged in the past for what was the FS2 championship against Butcher actually in 18, I think that was. And you know, he's raced in top series. He's been right up there in GT Challenge, VEC in the past. So I think that's a strong lineup as well. I think there's a few lineups that are going a bit under the radar.
Okay.
It's such a competitive season though. The grids are just not the grid. Sorry, the lineups are fantastic this year. Even though we've lost teams, we seem to have just acquired some proper talent.
Yeah, I totally agree. It shows how the GPWC Young Driver program's been working with Superlight, FS1, FS2, which aren't solely Young Driver series or whatever, but they definitely do the job.
Breeding grounds.
Yeah, the proving grounds. We've got plenty of new drivers in those series too. I mean, we haven't even touched on how the other competitions are looking, but I mean, Formula Sprint 2, for example, some of the team lineups are completely unrecognizable, and there's a good chance some of these drivers that we've never heard of are just getting into sim racing and have a natural talent for it. Maybe by the end of the year we'll be talking about a whole different host of drivers coming through and showing up to the Superleague market when they haven't even been thought of before. You never know. I think it's going to be a very exciting series for GPWC overall, in terms of the racing, the broadcasts, the different categories. I think that I don't know how 2024 is going to look, obviously, but for now, 2023 is gonna give us something to watch.
I can't wait, and I am absolutely devastated that I'm not going to be here for round 1.
I'm devastated we still have to wait for round 1. March the 9th, of course. That's the date that you've got to have in your calendars.
Yes, and I'm going to be sat at the top of a mountain. Probably
as you
drinking
do.
beer.
If it's a high enough mountain, you might be able to see the Super League race from there. Look over to San Marino.
I'm in France, I'll just pop over to Fournier's house.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, I believe we're going to move towards wrapping it up now, since we're very clearly waffling and there's only one car out on the circuit as we talk. But yes, it's been an interesting test. There have been a few talking points, a lot of laps put in by the Epic racing team in particular. They were all over this session. And of course, some very quick laps being put in as well, specifically Luke Maguire and Tom Stevens, way faster than anyone else out there so far today. And Mike Quint, not a bad lap from him either in that third place car. There you see the calendar. Look up for the San Marino Grand Prix on the 9th of March. Definitely do not miss that. But also, there are other GPWC competitions taking place before then that I wouldn't miss for the world. First of all, the FS2 race, which is going to be also at San Marino, and that is on the 28th of February, so the final race of this month. And there you see that calendar, actually. So that's coming up in just, 5 days now. Goodness me. So in 5 days' time, we're going to be at the Imola circuit for the first GPWC Formula Sprint 2 race of the season, and I am going to be competing in that. So if you would like to come along and support me, I would very much appreciate that. But yeah, of course, after that we have Formula Sprint 1, which will be 2 days later. Superlights is going to be 2 days before Super League, so it'll be on the 7th. There you see the FS1 calendar there. That'll kick off the month of March for us. And then, of course, Super League Light will be on the 7th, or Super Light, as it's known now. We haven't even spoken about that championship yet, but that's some more GPWC action to watch. And if you're not completely sick of us by that point, the main Super League event, as we're saying, is on the 9th of March. Absolutely do not miss it. So Ryan, before we wrap up, have you got any closing remarks about today's test session and the upcoming GPWC season?
I try not to read into the test sessions too much, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but thanks everybody for watching, as always, putting up with myself and Caitlin this evening. Definitely quite nice to see some cars on the track again. It's been a while, and I've definitely missed it, and I'm going to be sat watching round 1. I wish I was here with you, but yeah, looking forward to seeing who gets the jump at round 1.
Indeed. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me. Thank you to Shim and Frelik for broadcasting this and giving you the sights and the stream that you're watching. Thank you to the whole broadcast team for putting such brilliant steps towards what will be a tremendous first broadcast of the year at the San Marino Grand Prix. And of course, thank you to all of you for watching. We will be back in just a few more days now, so not long to wait. See you then.